Hello, my name is CJ. Today I want to talk to you about who I think Samuel the Lamanite was. Since we're studying him in Come Follow Me, it's more than appropriate to discuss that. So Samuel the Lamanite's a very interesting prophet. Um, he comes on the scene out of nowhere and he disappears just as quickly as he arrived. He's also the only prophet who gives specific, detailed prophecies about the coming of Christ. Unlike Isaiah, who is very, very hard to follow, or the book of Revelations, where you have to pray about it, you have to read it often, you have to get different commentaries. Samuel the Lamanite, just straightforward language. This is what it's going to be like when Christ comes. So, very interesting, very unique prophet. But who was he? So, let's look at a few things that we definitely know for a fact. Book of Mormon prophets, judges, and kings are often father to son, whether it's on the Nephite side or the Lamanite side. They're usually father to son. Patriarchal rule, kingly rule, etc. So Samuel, as a Lamanite prophet, probably descended from prophetic and or kingly blood. My theory, I think he was the grandson of Ammon and Lamoni's daughter. Or at least one of the sons of Mosiah and the daughters of Lamoni's dad / Lamoni's sisters. And here's why. So Samuel obviously did not come from the Amulonites or the Amlicites, the apostate Nephi wannabes. It was probably from the people of Ammon, as they were referred to by the Nephites, or the anti-Nephi Lehis. Now, Samuel the Lamanite comes on the scene roughly 80 to 96 years after Ammon shows up and leaves after his mission ends among the Lamanites. So, a couple things we know about Lamoni. Lamoni and his wife saw the Savior. This was both necessary for missionary work to get going, and it was also right as a king to see something this large, this grand, this special. And that's part of what helped change the people and motivate their conversion. Sorry, that's the word I'm looking for, their conversion. So Lamoni and his wife saw the Savior. Originally, when Lamoni first captured Ammon, he said, hey, you know what? You want to live here with my people? That's great. Why don't you marry one of my daughters? Ammon declines, says, no, actually, I just want to be a servant. Lamoni was probably older than Ammon, and it's possible that Ammon's daughter, or Lamoni's daughter, was younger than Ammon. So Ammon's probably in the middle, maybe like 10 or 15 years younger than Lamoni and 10 or 15 years older than Lamoni's daughter. Possibly. That's random theory. We do know that Ammon and Lamoni became really good friends, possibly best friends, throughout their time together. So Ammon was there for at least 14 years that we know of, probably from his late 20s to his early 40s, his prime adulthood, when he's going to get married, going to have kids. Well, we don't hear, at least not according to the Book of Mormon, of him going back and forth between the Nephites and the Lamanites. He was there with the Lamanites for 14 years, which means he probably married a Lamanite woman. Now, it would make sense that he married Lamoni's daughter. Lamoni is his best friend. He originally proposed marriage. It wasn't right at that time. Well, what if it's right now? After they've converted, they're active members of the church, it would be more appropriate for him to marry one of their women. Now, that may seem kind of weird to people because we talk about the Lamanites and Nephites intermingling and how that was wrong. But what if in this period of time it was right and it was appropriate? And go with me on this. So the people became known as the people of Ammon. Now, who was Ammon? Ammon's dad, King Mosiah, was the king over all the Nephites. He was not only king, but he was also a prophet. He was a seer. We read about that. He translated the Jaredite record. However, he was subject to Alma the Elder, who was the prophet. So we have two prophets. One is subject to the authority of the other. Mosiah is subject to the authority of Alma. Now, if the grandson or great-grandson of Ammon and Lamoni's daughter, he'd have both prophetic and kingly blood through Ammon's father, and kingly blood through Lamoni and Lamoni's father. Both Lamoni's father and Ammon's father were kings over both Book of Mormon empires. This would give Samuel the Lamanite both he had kingly and prophetic right to preach among his people, as well as Nephite and Lamanite blood. So he had 3 reasons why he was quite appropriate as a Lamanite to teach among the Nephites. So, descending from both kings, king of the Nephite Empire through Mosiah, and king of the Lamanite Empire through Lamoni's daughter, or Lamoni's dad, he would be the only Book of Mormon prophet that we know of who is a direct descendant of both empires, kingly empires. This is when, according to Kings. And coming from 2 different kings, Nephite and Lamanite, would make him the perfect candidate to teach about Jesus Christ, the King of Kings. Not only that, but his specific prophecies of when Jesus Christ is coming. So that leads me into part 2, the prophecies of Samuel the Lamanite. Concerning the second coming, a lot of people like to say, no man knows the day nor the hour. Whereas that is true, taken at face value, it is extremely and grossly misunderstood. Samuel gives the most detailed prophecies about the birth and death of Jesus Christ. He'll be born in 5 years. This is when he's coming. In 5 years, he will be born. And you want to know how? There'll be a day, a night, and a day, such as one day. There'll be a new star, and there's also going to be some additional unnamed astronomical signs. Christ is going to be killed. He's going to be crucified. When he dies, you'll know that happened because there'll be 3 days of darkness, thunderings, lightnings, and earthquakes, and there'll be a resurrection of many people. So on both ends of the spectrum, his birth and his death, he tells us when his birth will be, what will happen, multi signs to let us know that it happened, and when his death happens, you'll also know that it happened. He doesn't mince words. He doesn't sugarcoat things. He doesn't make you read between the lines. He tells you exactly what's going to happen. This is his first coming. Now, just like a woman may not know when her child will be born, what day, what hour, but she knows the month, if it's in the middle of the month. And she probably knows the week. And when her body starts going into labor, she's like, okay, probably within the next day or 2. She knows when it's going to happen. Not the actual specific time, but the very specific general time. That's just doctrine. We can know the signs of Christ's coming. And Samuel the Lamanite gives them the specifics of his first coming. However, before he gives the prophecies, he pronounces an immediate and impending curse upon the people as a result of their overall sins of casting out and killing the prophets. That's Helaman 13, verses 24 through 25. He calls out the entire land for their sins, for their wickedness, their love of money, and their rejecting the prophets. Chapter 13, verses 12 through 16, calls out the entire Nephite land. So this is a very specific prophecy for the entire people. He condemns their love of bondage, or their love of financial pursuit of money, and he pronounces financial bondage upon them. Their treasure, i.e. their money, will begin to disappear. Their weapons, their swords, their gold, anything they bury in the ground, they sleep with their sword, they're going to wake up and it's gone. Their money, their weapons will all disappear. He calls out their love of treasure or riches, specifically by name, 19 times. This curse was fulfilled off and on throughout the next 40 years, between his showing up on the scene and Jesus Christ appearing. We read about that in Helaman 13, verses 33, the prophecy specifically fulfilled in 3 Nephi 3, 24, also 3 Nephi 8, 23 through 25. So how does this affect us, if at all? This is part 3. As many of you know, 2020 might as well be the year of Book of Mormon parallels, because it's one parallel after another. Samuel the Lamanite came upon the scene approximately 40 years before the appearance of Jesus Christ. 5 years from Samuel to the birth of Jesus Christ, 33 years of the life of Jesus Christ, and approximately one year, maybe a little bit more, from the resurrection of Christ to his appearance in Bountiful. So approximately 40 years, at least 39 minimum, almost 40 years from the time that Samuel the Lamanite shows up to Jesus Christ appearing. We are just under 40 days from General Conference. From August 31st, when we started this week of Come Follow Me, to General Conference, is just under 40 days. It's actually 34 days. So 34 days from this Come Follow Me to General Conference, and 40 years from Samuel to Jesus Christ. Maybe there's a parallel. Maybe not. 4 weeks ago, President Nelson, this was August 5th, on his Facebook update, he told us there are bumpy roads ahead and to fasten our seatbelts. Samuel the Lamanite prophesied of a definite financial curse to overtake the people. I would not be surprised if in the following weeks, maybe months, we were to see a large financial crisis. Whether that's the stock market crashing or more of the mint not releasing money, coins and bills, dollar bills disappearing, if you've been following some of that news lately. Either way, I think it's very possible that we will see a large financial crisis within the coming weeks before General Conference, or possibly within the next coming months, possibly as a result of the election. I don't know. But those are my thoughts on the matter on who Samuel the Lamanite is. I think he's the direct grandson or great-grandson of Ammon, Lamoni's daughter. He has kingly blood from both King Mosiah and Lamoni's father. As such, he has the right to teach among the Nephites and the Lamanites, and to teach about the King of Kings being descended from both kings. And I think we have some rough times ahead of us financially, based on the prophecies of Samuel the Lamanite.